like that, Drops with the Beastie Boys when they first came out, it can go on forever and ever, but I guess the whole idea from the beginning was to document what was going on in my community, to just, not just hip hop, because when we first started Video Music Box in 1983, they were maybe 10 hip hop videos in total, and we were on, once a week, so we couldn't play those 10 videos every week, so we mixed it up with, a little bit of, Tears for Fear, U2, Madonna, Bob Marley. The 80s were great for music because everything was just, spread across the board. So we listened to a little bit of everything. It's kind of almost like how it is right now for young people. So, hip hop though, the passion behind hip hop is what drove it to be #1 music, in the last 30 years or the last maybe more. But the passion is what made hip hop, because when I went to the streets after being on television, in the first 2 years of Video Music Box, I wasn't even on the screen, nobody saw me. And then in '85, they said, you have to be on TV, and that was the first time you ever saw me, that was the first.
With the hat?
No, with that shiny Shams the Baron shirt on, man. Everybody from the '80s knows Shams the Baron. So that was the first time anybody ever seen me. Other than that, it was just my voice up to that point. And then, in '85, I started showing my face, and the hip hop community was the ones that, were really passionate about it, were coming up to me. And that was also around the time when we started doing clubs and doing parties, and we started the whole idea of doing a shout out. And once we did that one time, everywhere I went, people said, I want to do a shout out, and I was like, okay, they didn't really care about anything I had to say, they just wanted to do a shout out, But that was a way of getting the audience involved. And some people that did shout outs at every party we went to. If you don't know what a shout out is, it's like I'm at a party, I come up to you and what's going on, and you say, you want to shout somebody out, and they'll go yeah, all right, I want to shout out my baby mother, I want to shout out my baby father in Rikers, whatever it was, and nobody had ever used that term on television before, shout out, and that was the beginning of the term shout out, which is amazing to me now because I hear, President Barack Obama going shouting out, Michelle, and I'm like, who told him to say that?
I know they're gathering the questions, so I'll ask one more until we get some from the audience coming down here. One of the things you put in there, which I'm so glad to have seen it in there, and I didn't know if you would, was the little word section.
That's my cousin Ting told me I got to make sure I put the word section in there.
There you go. I try to tell people about that part of Video Music Box because I think there are a lot of people that are completely unaware of the fact that when you watch this show, for me, I'm a Brooklyn kid. I would run home from school, literally run home from school to catch Video Music Box. And one of the things that always stood out to me is that right when you least expect it, there would be a message in the middle of the show telling you either something important about practicing safe sex, or staying in school, or staying off drugs, or not being being involved with crime and things like that. And what compelled you to add that element to the show? Because you didn't have to.
I think the idea from the beginning was the music was going to draw young people in to watch it, but we really wanted to get the message across. That was really important to me before even the music, to be honest with you, because we saw so many young people. And that clip there dealt with teen pregnancy. I think it was the, I grew up as, in the 60s and 70s, and we had, the struggle of, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and everything that our parents did to make sure that we became better than what they did. And I always wanted to see our young people do better than what I did. So that was my motivation behind, including important messages to help young people in it.
Well, you talked a bit about how you, kind of got started with Video Music Box, but one question here from the audience is, did you ever contemplate selling Video Music Box to MTV Network once they started airing a lot of hip-hop videos? Were there any times where that almost happened?
Yeah, we approached MTV before they aired Yo MTV Raps, before they really aired any video, rap videos on a regular basis, and it's, they told me that, Middle America wasn't ready. This was 1986. And they told me that Middle America wasn't ready for hip hop. And, you know, by 1986, as we all know, there was a lot of music out there. By that time, you know, I mean, Run DMC was, you know, they probably had already, you know, sold gold, platinum, Houdini. I'm like, what do you mean they're not ready? The audiences are loving this stuff. And they were like, nah, they're not ready for that. But I think what MTV just wanted to kind of, you know, control it from, you know, from a corporate standpoint. And that's what they weren't quite ready yet when Video Music Box came. But the next year, 1987, is when they started doing TV raps.
The next question is, it was amazing to see all of the talent in the local nightclubs like the Tunnel, Mars, and Kilimanjaro. How do you feel about hip-hop that you no longer have access to local talent like Jay-Z and Foxy Brown? In other words, is hip-hop still hip-hop if you can't see it?
Good question. Yeah, I mean, that happens, you know, like, you know, I've gone to places and, you know, and Jay-Z will be over there and you try to go over there and talk to her and people will look at you like, you can't possibly know him. And I'm like, what do you mean? He used to come in my office, you know, and ask me to play his videos, you know, or call me up or meet me on the corner in Marcy, you know. So it's pretty amazing that when that happens, but that's just part of, you know, the evolve, how these artists evolve, especially in the case of Jay-Z. We are literally in the middle of that right now as we feel the element of what he's involved in around the corner with the stadium. So, I mean, but it happens, you know, a lot of times, you know, you see these artists and they take off and corporate kind of takes over. And, you know, and people that are in it for the money, not for the culture. This is all about culture to me. This has always been about culture to me. And when I do it to this day, you know, it's all about culture. But when it gets to that level and that amount of money, it's bigger than culture, it's about money. They're thinking about money at that point. And so they're not really thinking about what your interest is and how Jay-Z got to that point. You know, it's like Lori, you know, talks about, you know, everybody wants to live in Brooklyn now, but, you know, it wasn't always like that. You know, we always used to say Brooklyn. Now everybody wants to be here. But what about the people that have been here for all along, you know? And that's what, you know, it's almost the same thing.